So today we're going to be learning about USAID. Personally, I'm just now figuring out all of the details to it and everything that entails. But RFK Jr. reveals that USAID was actually a CIA front secretly funneling billions in 2014 to ignite riots in Ukraine. According to him, these CIA-backed riots triggered a coup that toppled Ukraine's neutral, democratically elected government.
2014, there are riots it's called the Maidan Rebellion in Ukraine, which we're not told that we are financing those riots. The newspapers never told us, our government never told us. USAID, which is a CIA front, put $5 billion into funding those riots. Those riots lead to a coup d'etat against the first democratically elected government of the Ukraine. It was a government that refused to choose sides and to say, we're going to be on the side of the West. So we wanted them out. A month before that government is overthrown, Victoria Nuland, who's the part of the centerpiece of the neocon ideology and who is now a high-level official in the State Department, has a secret call with the U.S. ambassador, which is tape recorded and is now public, which anybody can go and look up, where she is picking the new cabinet for the Ukraine, which is a U.S. Western cabinet. So they're picking the new government a month before the old government is overthrown.
Is that how democracy? Is that democracy when Victoria Nuland picks her government?
Well, that's the point. Is USAID doesn't really do. And the CIA don't do democracy. The CIA has overthrown, I think, 83 governments between 1947 and 1997. That's a third of the governments on Earth, and most of them were democracies. Oh, it doesn't do democracy.
So I'm trying to understand here. Is he saying that before the government was overthrown a month prior to that, this woman, Victoria Nuland, she had already had in place people whom she was going to replace that old government with just 1 month before? He also mentioned that we're also, the U.S., we were the ones whom paid for this. I mean, that's no surprise, though. I mean, we already knew we was giving our money to Ukraine. Just trying to gain a level of understanding of this. Kerner added, the Obama regime and CIA engineered a coup in 2014 that replaced a Russia-friendly Ukraine government with a puppet U.S.-friendly government. Okay. So I had to actually look this up.
Coup d'etat.
Coup d'etat. I keep saying coup. Coup d'etat, or simply coup, is simply an illegal or covert attempt by a military organization or other government elites to unseat an incumbent leadership. Okay, got you. So this was a plot and a plan already. So even beyond that, today I learned that Trump had paused USAID, one for audit and review. It says Trump ordered a 90-day freeze on most new foreign aid obligations to conduct a comprehensive review. This was aimed at ensuring that U.S. foreign assistance is efficient and directly aligned with American interests and values. According to reports from Reuters and other sources, this review was intended to check if aid programs were being used effectively or if there were instances of waste or misalignment with U.S. foreign policy objectives. This TikTok influencer, however, and activist from Uganda thanks the U.S. for ending USAID and says it's a wake-up call for African nations to stop relying on foreign aid and become self-sufficient. Ooh.
We have depended on USAID for over 60 years, and
what happened to the audio? Don't do that too. Don't do that to me.
Depended on USAID for over 60 years. And the moment the owners of the money say, let's take a 90-day pause that I audit where my money is going, suddenly the whole country goes into a frenzy. And this should be a moment of reflection for Uganda and the African continent in general. We have been asking for a very long time to be liberated from colonialism, neo-colonialism. And now that the opportunity presents itself, for some reason, we are complaining. Because let's get something straight. Often the money given to us in foreign aid is lost to corruption, misuse, depleted and overrated salaries to particular individuals, or sometimes we lose billions of money that are unaccounted for. So it only makes sense that the donor is asking for an audit, and if that means pausing the amount of money coming in, they should. And I do understand the implications of this pause because so many heavily funded healthcare projects run on USAID, but that should be a moment of reflection. This is just a 90-day pause. What would happen if the United States just said, we're not giving you money anymore? And within their rights, they can't do that because it is their money. It's high time Uganda and the African continent got themselves together and actually started looking for systems that are sustainable and not always depend on foreign aid, because we are struggling with debt. On top of that, we have constant aid, which doesn't necessarily help us to have a more independent system. Instead of writing paragraphs of why this is a bad move, we should essentially realize that, we are actually in a bad situation and we cannot always depend on aid because it can go any day. African nations should wake up. Uganda should wake up because this is not even funny.
She also mentioned how, hey, look, if they want to audit how they spending their money, what's the problem with that? And that speaks to what DOGE has introduced. Elon Musk over there is making sure that the government funding is being used efficiently. You can't complain with that. She's also saying, hey, we should be less dependent on foreign aid and create more self-sufficient ways for us to be able to essentially do what we need to do for ourselves. Because at any moment, they could all get snapped away and get Thanos, apparently. Right here, they posted this picture of Trump, Elon Musk, and the classic liberal meltdown. Added that with the classic, what do you call that, sync with the shining. Oh my gosh, this right here is on point for sure, man. What else do we have? So it says, stop letting mainstream media describe USAID as a humanitarian aid agency. It's a CIA front group that destabilizes foreign aid governments, funds coups, terrorist groups, and dangerous virus research labs in China. Let's see what we got.
We have some news right now. The Trump administration has completely shut down the USAID website, which is the agency responsible for humanitarian assistance around the world.
No. USAID is not just a humanitarian aid organization. It is a front in order to run covert intelligence ops around the world to do coups and regime change operations and all kinds of other criminal activities. In the mid-2000s, USAID was exposed for building a, quote, fake Cuban Twitter designed to lure in young users and slowly feed them anti-government content to spark protests. USAID was also involved in the 2014 coup in Ukraine, which some argue has led to the war in Russia now. And this stuff goes back decades and decades and decades. In 1973, USAID helped pump in millions of dollars to overthrow a democratically elected leader, Salvador Allende, to install a dictatorship that would be more friendly to U.S. interests. The organization is also involved in other sketchy activities like this, pause to read, and also this. Very interesting rabbit hole if you want to go down it. All the while, USAID was actively pressuring media organizations around the world to censor certain narratives. My point is, I'm sure there are some people on the ground doing good work at USAID. I'm sure there's good people doing good work. But at its core, it is a criminal organization. I just thought people would benefit from knowing this context.
Thank you for that. So at the end of the day, they're trying to market it as something that's for the people and something that's going to actually do good for us, but is no way, shape, or form set up for that. It's actually somewhat of a shell company to fund higher salaries and also continue to pin us against each other. Not only us, what's going on in Ukraine as well. Ian Carroll actually responded to this by saying, great thread and video. And Digital Wanderer says, but it has aid in its name. James Lee replied, it stands for United States Agency for International Development, nothing to do with aid. Now, critiques of past aid practices is actually one of the reasons why it's also been paused. Foreign aid, that is. Trump and his administration criticized what they saw as bloated foreign aid systems that did not always serve U.S. interests or reflect American values. This critique included concerns about funding programs perceived as advancing liberal social agendas or supporting countries that do not align with the U.S. policies. So we do know that to be true. Right here, we're going to get a deeper dive into what USAID actually is and just discover more of what it what they really do behind the scenes here.
Internationally. Name USAID, they focus on aid. They focus on thinking like it's humanitarian work. But aid is not actually in the name of USAID. USAID stands for the United States Agency for International Development, not aid. It's not a charity. And international development is simply capacity building. It is local and regional capacity building done across the whole world, i.e. internationally. The primal id in USAID, international development, is about capacity building of assets that can be used by either the Pentagon, the State Department, or the CIA for their own activities. So if you're the Secretary of State and you were asked by the National Security Council or the President to do something in a different country, overthrow their government, stop the passage of a bill in a foreign country's legislature, how would you do that? And the first thing that I said is you would look at the assets that already exist in the country. Do we need new assets in addition to the ones that we currently have, or are the existing assets, can they achieve this simply by giving them enough money, giving them enough resources, giving them enough training, giving them enough support? One of the main ways that capacity building would be financed would be through USAID. USAID would say that it's doing something, funding a hospital system, funding universities, funding civil society organizations, funding media institutions, funding independent media in the region. Sorry, it's something in my eye. Independent media in the region on USAID payroll. And those institutions, those assets, would then be bigger and more powerful and more capable more capable of serving the State Department's goal, aka advancing U.S. national interests. USAID has a bigger budget than the State Department, over $50 billion. It is a bigger budget than the CIA. The entire intelligence community only has about 72 billion. So that's the CIA plus the 16 others. And USAID has a bigger budget than the CIA and is almost the size of the entire intelligence community combined. That is how important USAID is to American statecraft. It is an intelligence community, a State Department, and a Pentagon assistance organization rolled into one. I just copied this from the USAID website. USAID carries out U.S. foreign policy, advances U.S. national interests by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies, creates markets, and trade partners for the United States.
All right, this is a whole lot for me to digest right quick. Okay. So USAID carries out foreign policy, meaning they have someone that can influence foreign policy changes to some degree. He jokingly says something about overthrowing government. And they do that by advances in U.S. national interests by promoting broad-scale human progress, which is companies, media corporations, and things of that nature, right? While at the same time, it expands stable, free societies, create markets and trade patterns for the United States. And y'all forgive my ignorance here. I'm just a young kid out here trying to put it all together. So if I got to pause to say it all out over, it's because I thoroughly need to be able to, grasp the concept of this.
Interests by promoting broad-scale human progress. At the same time, it expands stable, free societies, creates markets and trade partners for the United States, and fosters goodwill abroad. The operative phrases here are carries out U.S. foreign policy. This is not charity work. This is not aid. This is cynical, self-serving purposes. And what is it seeking to do? Free societies, open societies. Why does USAID want other countries to be open societies? Because that's how you get the influence in. If a country is a closed society, they're closed off from USAID influence. We cannot capacity build our assets there. Closed societies box USAID out. China is a
Wow. So it's their way of trying to take over the minds and influence of other countries as well by putting up the front like, hey, we're here trying to provide help create the free societies and things of that nature. but in fact, they're trying to indoctrinate them to some degree. Whoa.
A closed society. That is why we have not been able to topple the government of China, despite having tried for 100 years now almost. We have not been able to topple Putin from Russia. Why? Because Russia is a closed society. Like China, they kicked USAID out. It is not an open society. And so the USAID can't just take over their entire media ecosystem by funding 100 different media propaganda outlets in the region to sway hearts and minds. And remember, that's what this is. It's hearts and minds and cash. That's what soft power is. They call it hearts and minds work, but it's cash that does the moving of those hearts and minds, especially of the leaders of the movements.
People greedy, bro. Oh my gosh. Shout out to Bands_Pill for that. Whoa. Okay, so y'all seen me, man. I was thoroughly trying to grasp an understanding of it. And I just understand now that we just out here being weird. And I get that. I mean, I don't get that. But what I'm saying is I have a understanding as to why, minus any sort of, I have an understanding as to why China and Russia have a particular view in mainstream media outside of things that I don't know, information that I'm ignorant to in terms of conflicts between those two countries and us. I really appreciate that breakdown, man. Moving on real quick. The USAID offices has closed. We know that, but I wanted to wrap this up with Fox talking about DOGE and the fraudulent treasury payments that he found.
Elon Musk said, I think I can trim $1 or $2 trillion. That's what he's doing now.
Yeah, they're trying to cut the fat and all the overspending, and this shocked everybody. This is what Elon Musk, who is the chair of DOGE, posted. The DOGE team discovered, among other things, that payment approval officers at Treasury were instructed always to approve payments, even to known fraudulent or terrorist groups. They literally never denied a payment in their entire career, not even once.
This is so phenomenal. I mean, again, it was on me. I thought DOGE was going to get in, make recommendations because they weren't an official, didn't have a cabinet position. But what DOGE is doing to get inside, when Scott Bessent says, I'm Treasury Secretary, Elon, you can go in and take a look at this, take a look at the books. No one's ever done this before. So they're looking at all invoices, in and out of everything. If you want to attack government spending, look at the size of the federal workforce, 2.3 million. They send out the email, if you want to resign, now's the time. And then they said, if you want to look at spending, let's find out exactly how much we're spending. Right. We see the budget's this big, but how many people are actually looking at everything? Right. DOGE is in there looking at everything. So this is my hope, is that when a lot of these stalwarts in Congress say, I want to cut spending before I approve any tax decreases or anything, they'll look at what DOGE is doing and saying, I am eliminating the USAID.
Isn't it?
This is exactly how Donald Trump and Elon Musk and DOGE and the administration plans to take aim at the deep state right here, and they not playing.
Eliminating, I'm reevaluating, and it's hard arguing against any of these cuts. Some of them are to empty we're paying for empty buildings, we're paying for programs that are defunct, that are counterintuitive, or counter to America, or to, like you say, these dicey groups.
It's astonishing to think that they've never done this before. That seems like when you have to balance your checkbook, or if you need to save some money around Christmas time to buy toys for your family, you're going to look at your spending and you're going to say, what can I cut? We're not going to go out and eat as much this year.
Right. I mean,
meaning left-wing media and legacy media who looks at this as somehow Donald Trump and Elon Musk ruling with some sort of iron fist. One, it is. Two, they have to get to the bottom of it. Is that not fair? Would you want to? Aren't you curious about how you're funding, how you're spending your money and where your money is going?
During the campaign, we heard Donald Trump rail against the Department of Education. A lot of people thought, okay, he's going to get rid of the Department of Education. He might still, but it was at midnight last night. Elon Musk said on X that Donald Trump agreed to shut down the U.S. Agency for International Development. He said it was beyond repair. So the staff all got emails today saying work from home. And so essentially what the USAID does is they give money to different countries after disasters and for poverty and to promote democracy. But right now, it is pretty much closed, and it looks as if it is going to be folded into the Department of State.
So they all lose their jobs?
Unclear.
Okay.
They have to get, this is part of when people say the deep state, and when people get hired as Secretary of State, they're like, okay, you'll be here for 4 years and I'm gone. And that's pretty much, people throw up their hands and go, I guess so. Well, no, not this administration, not this time. He's saying USAID going to these, going to binary parades in El Salvador that Brian Mast ran through yesterday. Margaret Brennan challenged Brian Mast to say, USAID does some valuable things. Yeah, but they also do some things that are counter to America. Yeah. And they're doing things we have no business promoting. Yep. And he ran through like 10 separate programs that she couldn't get her jaw off the ground that we're financing. So Elon Musk talked to President Trump. He said, you're not going to believe what I've discovered what the USAID is doing. And he said, and Trump said, he goes, what do you think? And Trump said, let's get rid of it. Let's fold it in and get rid of it. Well, the head of the USAID resented and resisted when Elon Musk went in. So they fired him. John Voorhees, they told him to get out. Wow. Now, he's the one who fired the Trump guy who was appointed there last time when he tried to find out where all the spending was and began to question it. When they went to the Inspector General and looked for a referee during the Trump years on USAID, the U.S. Inspector General rubber-stamped everything Voorhees did, and they told the other guy to get lost. And then they fired him. And now Trump comes in 4 years later and says, now we're fixing this. Mm-hmm. So this is amazing what is happening within 10 days of him getting the job.
Man, Donald Trump did not come to play. You can see him and Elon Musk, they are doing exactly what they intended to do, which was keep their word. They're keeping their promise, and they're cleaning up the government spending, and the fact that we funneling billions to Ukraine. And now knowing recently before Biden got out, he even sent more funding, knowing all of these things and then hearing these facts on top of that. Come on, man. This only proves further why the previous administration was corrupt, and also just shows you just how deep the deep state is, man. But also showing just how, I'm not going to say like these are the elites and nothing like that, but it's dismantling the fabric. It's dismantling the system in which the deep state operates in order to funnel money and also influence. I see. What's the point of going to another country and trying to get them to, if it ain't got nothing to do with you? Why are you also trying to take over media there and influence them? That's some real oligarchy stuff. They trying to take the minds of everybody. That's not cool. They trying to further the brainwash. So I'm still gaining a level of understanding on this. I appreciate y'all patience with me as I went through this video. I know we had a couple instances where we didn't transition so smoothly. However, I appreciate y'all patience every single time. Go check on somebody today. You could be saving their life. Peace.